So let's go ahead and start with Barry Goldwater. How am I going to rank these? I haven't really done story for much of them, so I'll go with what I know they can do. How easy it is to play them, how badly the nation might be screwed up if they're in charge, and yeah, I think that's an okay. So Barry Goldwater. First is C. I was thinking, yeah, Barry Goldwater is a C tier presidential candidate. He can do a lot of good. He can break up the corrupt unions at the time, which you got to remember, this is the '60s. Unions are horribly corrupt at this time. You can investigate the far right and far left, go after them. You have to choose between the two, but you have an option. You can go after corruption in America, and you can choose to even go within your own party. That's pretty cool. That is pretty base. But the problem with old Barry, old Goldwater, is that if you're not careful, or if you intentionally do it, you can leave America in a pretty bad position where Yawkey or Hall can end up getting in power. And that's pretty much worst case scenario either way. So that's pretty not so good. So that holds him back at C tier. But I still think old Barry Boy is a pretty solid president. I might go back one of these days just to run with him. But yeah. So moving on from here, we have Curtis LeMay, the secret president, if you go down George Wallace's path and get him impeached. I'm thinking C, maybe B. Um, 60X, we're recovering from Stalin. Yeah, 60s, that sounds about right. And in TNO, you're dealing with Germans, which is even probably worse. I'd imagine that'd be worse. What do we want to do? I'll go C. I can't decide, so C. LeMay is a fun figure. Yeah, I think C too. He puts his foot down and say, you know what, we're doing civil rights, especially if you're dealing with fucking George Wallace and his shenanigans. I think he gets impeached because he tries to force, if you try to force segregation on the whole United States, he throws his foot down. Is like, you know what, we're not doing this crap anymore. We're passing a civil rights bill. We're not putting up with this crap. He also, his focuses are filled with a lot of cursing, a lot of vulgarity. It seems like a lot of fun. So that's pretty cool. Same sort of issue where that kind of sets up resentment from the Yaquis, and that kind of can lead to Yawkey being in charge. But hey, what are you going to do? Speaking of which, Francis Parker Yawkey, the gamer president, for actually how he'd run the country, I hope I don't have to explain this. I hope I don't have to explain this at all. An actual fucking fascist running America, that's not a fun thought. That is not fun. I am not a fan of fascism. You can quote me on that. Banning, enforcing segregation, not fun. Threatening nuclear war with Japan, also not very fun. Or probably not necessary. Yeah, I'm gonna say it, Yawkey's kind of cringe. So he's going to F tier. Red bars and banderas will cross for Yawkey. Fuck, I need focuses for my homeland. A focus tree for Ukraine would be neat. Moving on, we have George Mcgovern. Now, he's one of those presidents that only has like 10 focuses worth of content. So we just kind of have to assume how good he'd be. So he is a big non-interventionist list, which in real life probably would have been a good thing, but this is a video game. Military intervention is fun, so that's kind of I don't know about that. I think B though. I feel bad for George Mcgovern. We'll put him in. Just all-around normal guy who wants to, do what's nice for the country. He's an idealist, and so props to him for that. All right, Gus Hall. Also F tier. Not as bad as Yaki, but still pretty bad. I mean, think about it. Opening up the Lavender Wave by targeting the FBI director for his homosexuality, using that to get out of him. That's not very worker-friendly. That's kind of cringe, even. Targeting someone based off their sexuality. It's the 70s, but still, that's not okay. Back then. It's not okay now. It wasn't okay back then. His heart's in the right place, but I don't think he realizes that what he's doing is going to set up, say, a Yaki coming in and fucking things up horribly. So, I think Hall is also an F tier. Now, moving on to Scoop Jackson, who wants to give every man a television so we can see... so everyone can see us glass Tokyo. Again, I kind of have to just go with what's there. Interesting enough kind of balance. I'll go B. I think that's fair for Scoop. Yeah, we'll go with that. Moving on. Gene Kirkpatrick, the Neocon, the far-right candidate in 1972, aka the man, or the woman, that John Glenn absolutely crushed. C tier? I put him in B. We'll keep it in B. From a gameplay perspective, a bunch of coups, a bunch of intervention in Latin America does sound pretty fun. And that does sound pretty fun. So I think, keeping that in mind, that lady's D. I'm trying to think. I don't know if the country would be that much better. Just saying. I don't know. I'm torn between C or D. Well, of course, we'll get to that eventually. Okay, moving on. Robert McNamara. Fun guy in real life. What was it? It was this, I forget the policy. It was basically lowered IQ standards to get into to be drafted, and that got a bunch of people drafted into Vietnam, and that ended up killing a bunch of people. So, McNamara, he apologized for later in life. He kind of realized, hey, that was kind of fucked up. He's a big part in a couple administrations I know. I think he's in LBJ's to some capacity, and Wallace's to some capacity. McNamara's morons, exactly. Yeah, thank you. I'm trying to think. He can do the bipartisan route. He can invite Scoop and, I think at least Scoop, maybe Kirkpatrick into his administration. So yeah, you have the bipartisan thing going on. You can bring a bit of unity. And like I said, gameplay-wise, who was Kennedy's secretary? Yeah. And then, did it go in? Yeah, and LBJ, right. Gameplay-wise, it seems interesting enough. I have to imagine what his gameplay will be like, but it seems interesting enough. I think C. I'm kind of thinking C. I think that's fair. It's up to you guys to decide what do you think of my rankings, but we'll go with that. Moving on, Strom Thurmond. That's another F tier right there. It is literally the fail state for Robert Kennedy and doing all the cool progressive stuff. Revoking the Civil Rights Act, kind of cringe. Packing the court with conservative justices, kind of cringe. Segregationist judges at that. That's pretty bad. He may have done goof. That's not good. Strom Thurmond is not a cool guy at all. undoing a lot of good progress done by the Kennedy administration. He's literally the fail state if you don't balance Kennedy's path enough. So, yeah, that's a F tier in my book. Now, Wallace Bennett. This might be a bit controversial. Russia empires in the Axis. Oh, dear. Civil rights. And this might be a bit of a hot take. I'm putting Bennett in A tier. Because, it's kind of hard to fuck him up. He leaves the economy in a good position. If you already have civil rights, you're in an okay position. But if not, apparently you can have a pretty solid civil rights bill if you go down that path. You integrate the OFN, you make it a stronger alliance altogether, so that it's not just a temporary alliance, an actual viable economic union. You could actually force Australia to implement better mining and minority rights to have an economic alliance with them. That's pretty cool. So, that's boring guy. Bennett's a cool guy. I think we kind of crap on him because he is kind of status quo, but you know what? I think that's not the worst thing. You can't royally fuck up as him. I think that's fine. Alright, we got Richard Nixon coming up here next. Tricky Dick. I'm thinking D, C. What are we thinking for Nixon? Nixon is C. I mean, he literally gets it. He's about to get impeached. He has to resign. D, C, I don't know. I'll go C. I mean, it's Richard Nixon. He's basically the same in our timeline as he is back then. He's paranoid. He's not schizophrenic, but he does a lot of backroom shenanigans. It's not nice. So, that said, most of the focuses they do leave America in an interesting enough position. And it is a good starting tree. And so you can prepare for Indonesia, stuff like that. It depends on how you want to play Nixon, really. Manipulative, shady, exactly, yeah. Not a good guy. But hey, we'll go with it. Now Mike Herrington. Have they decided on a portrait for him yet, or are they still going back and forth on what to add? I haven't played Herrington from what I know, like B to low A tier. Herrington, D? A or B? I'm thinking B, because I know political power is in short supply for if you're doing a Herrington run. And so if you fail to pass those bills, people get upset. And that won't be the best. Let's see. He can leave America in a pretty good position, especially if you do a Bennett 2 Herrington run, because Bennett helps with the economy, and then you get Herrington in, and he helps out with that. If you don't, you might just need to cheat outright in order to do it well. I think there might be a path to do it ideally, but if you're playing him for the first time and you don't know the path, I think so. Bobby Kennedy. We'll get to Bobby. Let's talk about old Johnny. Hold on. Oops, shit. We'll, add a row below. We're putting John Kennedy in the F to pay respect tier. Yeah, it's yeah, they had to do it to him. The TNO had to do it to him. Yeah, let's get some F's in chat for Robert Kennedy, the poor man. Or John Kennedy, the poor man. He doesn't deserve it. He really doesn't deserve it. Okay. LBJ. S or A? Is he worth putting in S tier? A tier? I was kind of thinking A tier too. He has some of the same downsides as Herrington, that you have to balance PP and all that. Okay, S tier? Shit, I don't know. Yeah, I think S tier. I think that's actually fair. He's a lot more stable than, Herrington. You can do relatively a bit. Actually, they reworked? Did they? The rework might change things. Let me hear about the rework. That might dictate things. Hold on, let me grab my charger. Illinois passed Great Society and strengthens BOFN. Norwegian destruction by the Russian Empire is inevitable. Hell yeah! Sounds pretty based, Moonshine, not gonna lie. Yes, the focus don't cost any PP. Oh, okay, yeah. So, LBJ, you kind of have to go out of your way to fuck with and fuck it up. Foxen, how you doing, my friend? Good to see ya. Yeah, LBJ, you have to go out of your way, or just manage poorly in order to fuck it up. You can leave America in a pretty damn good position with LBJ. So, you know, LBJ all the way, baby. So we'll go with that. Now, Margaret Chase Smith. What are we doing for MCS? Just finished presents and drinking wine? Hell yeah, man. She is D. I don't think she's quite D. Because, okay, it depends on what path she ends up going. She can be RFK on steroids. She can also be George Wallace on steroids. She can also literally be a pathway to Yaki. So it's complicated. I like how dynamic she is. Going to America next year? Hell yeah. Good to hear, Foxen. Yeah, I'm thinking C tier. She's the most dynamic president. Things can go very well or very horrible under her, depending on how you want to do. Like, if you end up along with a Yaki path, Yaki literally usurps the nomination for 72. So that's not good, but you can side with the left, and if that works out, you can do a lot of good stuff, even better than, some more notable than RFK. So, I think it depends on how you want to do it. LBJ is RFK with steroids, but not for shady shit. Yeah. Got invited to a Jewish wedding for my cousin's Jewish wife. Nice. There you go. Okay. So we got that. George Wallace. Also falls as the Russian Empire enters the city with glorious BT-7s. Oh, that sounds great right now. George. There are two George Wallaces. That's a little awkward. George Wallace, I'm putting in D tier. And I'll defend the D tier pick with this. The game has an event that takes into account if you don't want to do segregation. If you keep integration, it has an event that lets you keep that in mind. And so, with that, I think, you know, Everyone says he's the third worst choice for president. For people who can be elected, like in a normal election, I'd probably agree with that. But in general, no. I think Thurmond is way worse. I think Wallace is capable of, not being a total piece of shit. You just have to avoid parts of his focus tree. And the game accounts if you do that. So his economic tree isn't the worst. He can pass Social Security. It's not the worst for the portraits. It's a TNO president tier list. So yeah, I think he's D, from what I can tell. We'll go with that. John Mccormack. I feel bad for him. He's a quintessential example of a "I never asked for this" meme. Speaker of the House put in after John Kennedy is shot. I'm kind of thinking B tier. I think B tier. He's good depending on how you want to. You can't really fuck up too badly with McCormack. Unless you want to go for a path, and you don't do the path to help boost your party popularity property, then you can kind of fuck up. But that's just if you don't know what you're doing. Man, I didn't know any but LBJ and Kennedy. Fair enough. Alright, so. Yeah, McCormack, he literally never asked for this. And so. We're coming up on the man. Sorry, I dipped so long, stupid people still want me to babysit on Christmas Day. Shit. I mean. Yeah, that's kind of. John Glenn, ladies and gentlemen. It's more Chad than the S tier list. I agree. I mean, it's kind of a meme. Now, I have my problems with the John Glenn game. I actually do. And so I'll lay him out because I have played Glenn. The social stuff is fun. The mechanics are kind of, the NASA mechanics are kind of scattery, especially public approval. Public approval is a bit of a bitch mechanic to handle. I don't like that mechanic that much. The NASA stuff I think is fine. I think he has the least focuses in his tree. They're somewhat long, so you get to go into 76 no problem. So that's not the problem. I think that it can be a little bit one note. I'd see if they could add maybe some stuff to improve schooling, school quality, stuff like that. I think that would be good to help distinguish Glenn a little bit more. But that said, I mean, you can go to Mars. You pass Social Security. You get rid of corporate lobbying in America. You drop farmer prices. You pass Medicare. You go to fucking Mars. You can literally bully the other two powers, Germany and Japan, into nuclear dearmament. You can bully them into accepting a nuclear disarmament treaty. And it can work pretty well. If it fucking goes horribly, I mean, nuclear Armageddon, but it's TNO. So that might be a better thing, because who wants to live in a world where the Nazis fucking won? So John Glenn is... What can I say? McKed put it well. He sounds like the GOAT because he is the fucking GOAT. Now, I have my critiques of how he plays... How the game plays. Like I said, I'd add some more stuff to, increase education funding. I'd probably cut the length on some of those focuses. Maybe even put some of NASA stuff to decisions instead of focuses. That can all be figured out in time. Glenn is the actual Lexi that Clockman is looking for. Ooh, maybe. That would be an interesting twist, wouldn't it? So yeah, we have the final president. The one that I can speak most accurately on, or somewhat more accurate. I can speak totally related to Glenn. Robert Kennedy. I'm putting him in A tier. Because, let's see. compared to LBJ, he can't do that much. I think even if you do everything legitly. I know they're tweaking with his mechanics all the time, you know, the whole underground assassination mechanics, but that's just I think that's just not a... I like the idea of it, but I think in execution, execution. I didn't mean that, but we'll go with that. The execution of Kennedy's assassination, I don't like how that works. I like the idea of it, but it can go. I think when I first played RFK, I had no idea what the fuck was going on. Like, it was a good, like, shock release. Like, oh my god, what the fuck? It's a confusing mechanic. I think they've done a better job with subsequent releases to make it more clear what's kind of going on, but yeah. RFK, yeah. Also, you know, COINTEL Pro, he blackmails, you know, he doesn't out Hoover, unlike, you know, fucking some people for being, you know, a closeted homosexual. He doesn't start a fucking lavender scare or anything like that, but he does blackmail him. He basically bullies his fucking attorney general and his cabinet into falling in line. He can do some pretty fun stuff. Pass Medicare, UBI, cool stuff like that. Yeah, that's a good way to put it, ALV. He is basically a nerfed version of... you can fuck off, bot. There we go. But yeah, he's basically a less effective version of LBJ. And I mean, LBJ is cool. I have love for LBJ. Nothing lost on that, but I don't know. So that's the tier list thus far. We'll see what happens when TNO 2 drops. See which presidential picks are there. I know they're saying that Jimmy Carter will be in TNO 2. That might be interesting to see how he plays in. So let's go over it. S tier, LBJ, John Glenn. A tier, Bennett, RFK. B tier, Mcgovern, Scoop, Herrington, McCormack. Maybe we need to do that with the Russian warlords. I mean, I'm down to do it. C tier, Goldwater, LeMay, McNamara, Nixon, Chase Smith. D tier, Kirkpatrick, Wallace, assuming you don't go segregation. F tier, Yaki, we got Hall, and we got Thurmond, and F to pay respect tier, John Kennedy. R.I.P. Good night, sweet prince.